everybody. Let me start out with the most notable fact about our next speaker first, right up front. And that's that I've known him for 25 years and can guarantee that there is no bigger credit union advocate in elected office in this city than the man you're about to hear from. Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders began his career in serving 4 terms as mayor of the Green Mountain State's largest city. He won election to the United States House of Representatives in 1990, serving 16 years until being elected to the U.S. Senate in 2006, where he has served Vermont and our nation ever since. Between his time in the House and the Senate, he's the longest-serving independent member of Congress in American history. For all of us in Vermont, Bernie has a reputation as a spokesperson for the working folk of America, which fits right in with what we all do as credit unions. He's been a stalwart in support for many important credit union issues, not the least of which has been his sponsorship of member business lending expansion. Please join all of us in Vermont in giving a big GAC welcome to Senator Bernie Sanders.
Joe, thank you very much for the introduction. And let me welcome the credit union members from the state of Vermont. We're a small state, but we have an active credit union membership. So Vermonters, thank you very much for being here today. They're small, but they're loud. As Joe mentioned, I am the longest serving independent in the history of the United States Congress, so my views are occasionally different from my Democratic and Republican colleagues. So let me just tell you what I think, and let me start off by telling you that all of you should be extremely proud that credit unions are one of the most vital, popular, and democratic institutions in America. And they play an enormous role in safeguarding the financial well-being of millions of working people. You should be very proud of that. And what you should also be very proud of is that the strength and the beauty of credit unions is that they are owned and controlled by all of the members and not by a handful of wealthy stockholders. What is extraordinary about credit unions is that they work to enhance the needs of the entire community. In fact, they are an integral part of the community, working with homeowners, small businesses, and working families. Unlike large financial institutions, credit unions are not an island unto themselves, whose sole function in life is to make as much money as they can for the few people who own them. You are part of the community, you work for the community, that is your mission, and that is what you do extremely well, and thank you for that. Without the need to make a profit, without heavy advertising costs, without huge bonuses to corporate executives, credit unions are providing loans and interest rates lower than other financial institutions. And credit unions are also providing loans to those who might otherwise be turned away from conventional banking institutions. Many banks around this country turn their backs on low-income people. They force them into these outrageous payday loan scams. That is not what you do, and thank you very much for serving all of the people. It is my belief, and I think it is yours, that credit unions and their members have the potential to be an even more important economic, social, and political force in our country in the decades ahead, and I look forward to working with you to make that a reality. But as you know, even though credit unions served some 100 million Americans, perhaps because they served some 100 million Americans, they will always be under attack by the for-profit financial establishment. Sadly, huge financial institutions and their lobbyists are up on Capitol Hill, working hard, trying to get Congress to tax credit unions. Let me tell you that as the United States Senator from Vermont, I will do everything I can to oppose that effort. As all of you know, credit unions are tax exempt for good reason, and not because anyone is doing them a special favor. Credit unions are tax exempt because they are non-profit institutions, and under federal law, and rightly so, non-profits are exempt from taxes. Churches, hospitals, libraries, universities, and credit unions, non-profit, tax exempt, that's the way it should be. Unfortunately, after everything that our country has been through in recent years, big banks still believe that it is not fair that credit unions are tax exempt. They argue that credit unions are getting a federal subsidy, special help from the federal government. And in fact, the banking lobby even has the goal to question the safety and soundness of credit unions. Let us never forget what happened in 2008 and the impact of the financial crash on millions of families in terms of job loss, loss of homes, loss of life savings. After the greed, recklessness, and illegal behavior on Wall Street nearly destroyed the entire economy, it was the taxpayers of this country who bailed out the largest financial institutions because they were too big to fail. Talk about subsidies. Not only did Congress provide over $700 billion as a bailout to the largest financial institutions in this country, the Federal Reserve, not widely known, but an amendment I passed in Dodd-Frank got this information out. The Fed, during the financial crisis, provided over $16 trillion, that's with a T, $16 trillion in total financial assistance to every major financial institution in this country. And now let me tell you something. Some of you may agree, and some of you may not agree. But my friends, today, when 6 huge Wall Street financial institutions have assets equivalent to nearly 60% of our gross domestic product, that is close to $10 trillion. When these institutions underwrite more than half of the mortgages in our country and provide more than 2/3 of the credit cards in this country, when these institutions have enormous political power, I know what Teddy Roosevelt would do if he were here today. He would say, if a bank is too big to fail, it is too big to exist, and it is time to break them up. Unlike the huge Wall Street banks who plunged this country into the worst financial and economic crisis since the Great Depression, credit unions have not received, nor have they needed, a multi-trillion-dollar bailout from the federal government. Unlike our friends on Wall Street, I am not aware of a single credit union in this country that has grown so big that if it were to fail, it would lead to the downfall of the entire U.S. economy. Unlike our friends on Wall Street who have received billions of dollars in bonuses, as if the financial crisis that they started never happened. CEOs today are receiving huge compensation packages. I am not aware of a single credit union executive who was rewarded a multi-million-dollar bonus for making risky bets on Wall Street instead of investing in the job-creating, productive economy. Unlike our friends at big banks who continue to rip off consumers by charging outrageous interest rates on credit cards, almost every credit union in this country charges a credit card interest rate of less than 15%, and not a single credit union in this country charges an interest rate of more than 18%. This did not happen by accident. As you know, for over 3 decades, Congress has imposed a cap on credit card interest rates and credit unions. But big banks are free to charge whatever interest rates they choose, and in some cases, in my view, the kinds of rates they are charging amount to usury, something that should be stopped. I am strongly supportive of legislation to raise the statutory cap on credit union member business loans from 12.25% to 27.5% of total assets. Raising this cap, it is estimated, would create about 140,000 new jobs and allow credit unions to lend an additional $13 billion to small businesses with absolutely no cost to taxpayers. Allowing credit unions to increase loans to small business is essential to creating good-paying jobs in our country. Let me conclude by thanking you very much for being here in Washington, for going up to Capitol Hill, and I will tell you why. There is a widespread perception among the American people, and I happen to believe that it is a true perception, that to a significant degree, Congress has turned its back on the middle class and working families of this country. And because of the campaign finance system that we have, which now allows billionaire families to pour huge sums of money into the political process, to buy and sell politicians, what we see every day coming out of Capitol Hill is not legislation that benefits the needs of ordinary Americans, but legislation that benefits large multinational corporations and some of the wealthiest people in this country. I happen to believe that the Citizens United decision, the disastrous Supreme Court decision, which said to billionaires, you know what, you own most of the country, now you can own the Congress. I think that was a terrible decision, and I think we need a constitutional amendment to overturn it. But I'll tell you what else I think. If there is an antidote to big money in politics, if there is an antidote to the lobbyists from corporate America who have huge influence over what goes on every day in the House and the Senate, that antidote is you and millions of Americans who are demanding that Congress pay attention to the needs of ordinary people and not just the people on top. So thank you very much for being here. Thank you for inviting me to speak with you, and I look forward to working with you in the years to come. Thank you.
Congressman, thank you.